Hello and welcome to Chronological Clone Wars, presented by the Podawakens. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, on his first watch of the Clone Wars is Logan. How are you today, Logan?
A little motion sick now that I just went hyperspace into the right hand side of the screen, Jordan. But no, I'm Jordan. I just watched the end of Clone Wars, and I'm just like in awe. Like I was sitting there at the end of it, going like 10 minutes I had before I had to get in the shower and jump on here. But I was just like, what just happened? Like
Yeah.
that was insane. But yeah, no, I'm sad but excited, Jordan, for the future. And now things are really starting to get connected and the dots are all aligned. So
Yeah, I got some stats for you here. So if you're listening to this the day it releases, it's September 13th, 2024. And we started this on November 22nd of 2023, our chronological Clone Wars watch. Now for Logan and I, it's actually been a little bit different because we record these in advance. That means we also didn't start on November 22nd. I don't know the date we started.
yeah.
But if you followed along with us and listened to each one, it's been 294 days since we released our first episode of that. 7 seasons, 133 episodes. We are done with the Clone Wars, but we're not done overall. Tales of the Jedi, we're going to dive into that. And then we're going to start diving into the Bad Batch binge. But we'll take a little breaks in between those. But just know more is coming on Logan's first watch through the animated series here. 294 days, Logan. We finished 133 episodes. 42 weeks is how many weeks this has taken. I don't think we missed a week, actually. I think I've been releasing these right on time. I don't think we missed one at all. We've had a lot going on in our lives.
Yeah, you had a whole baby
Yes.
during that time.
Yes, that's the thing too. We had just found out my wife was pregnant in early November. I think it was after we had already started talking about doing this. Or you brought the idea to me and I knew and I hadn't told you yet that she was pregnant. But like it was and
Yeah, it was a very Anakin Padme moment, and I was Obi-Wan, and you were
yeah.
not letting me in on the secrets.
It's been well since we're recording this, he's a month old. When it releases, he's 2 months old. Like it's crazy how this is going so far. But we are talking the final episodes of the 7th season of the Clone Wars and the Clone Wars as a whole, which are season 7, episode 9, Old Friends Not Forgotten, directed by Sal Ruiz, written by Dave Filoni, and it premiered April 17th, 2020. On Disney Plus, we have The Phantom Apprentice. Nathaniel Villanueva directed that, written by Dave Filoni. April 24th, 2022 is when that premiered. 2020, not 2022. Episode 11, Shattered, directed by Sal Ruiz, written by Dave Filoni, premiered May 1st, 2024. 2020, not 2020. What the hell am I saying? I'm all thrown off. And then episode 12, Victory and Death, directed by Nathaniel Villanueva, written by Dave Filoni, and that premiered, of course, on May 4th, 2020. The world was shut down with COVID. They still found a way to celebrate May 4th. I have the Disney Plus synopsis here. Old Friends Not Forgotten. The Siege of Mandalore begins, and Ahsoka turns to Anakin and Obi-Wan for help. The Phantom Apprentice. The battle for Mandalore continues, and Ahsoka finds herself face-to-face with Maul. Shattered. Maul is captured, and the Siege of Mandalore is won, but evil lurks everywhere, and the galaxy will never be the same. And in the wake of Order 66, Ahsoka and Rex must work together to survive. That was for Victory and Death. So, Logan, give me your initial thoughts here as you kind of alluded to it here. Of these 4 episodes that wrapped up the Clone Wars.
Spellbinding. No, I feel like everything is starting to make a lot of sense. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was actually shocked by how very little we get of the other characters. Like this is a focus on Ahsoka and really connecting that story with now and then fast forward into the Ahsoka live action where it really does it connects a lot of dots for me. Explains a lot of things for Order 66 that I mean, I guess you don't really think about. Um, there's a new element to this that I'm excited to kind of ask you about, because I don't know what's happening. Like what do we see? There's a certain someone I want to ask you about. But man, and it felt very cinematic, Jordan. Like up to this point,
That
Clone
was in
Wars.
my notes. Yeah,
Yeah,
these episodes are so cinematic.
yeah. Like this felt like a Star Wars movie. Like it really did, the four parts. So yeah, no, this is by far, I think, the best animated series that I think I've ever seen ever in anything. So this was amazing, great storytelling. I can't wait to get into it, just because there's just so much to unpack, I think.
Yeah, I think no surprise. These four are my favorite episodes of the Clone Wars. It is what I've been when you said you wanted to watch this, I even said like, oh, the finale is really great. Like it ties in with Revenge of the Sith so well, and we see that. We see scenes from other perspectives. We also see like gaps in between scenes in Revenge of the Sith. I know there's a fan edit out there that weaves these scenes in with Revenge of the Sith. So I haven't watched that, but I've heard good things about it. I'm rocking my Ahsoka Troopers shirt here that I got at Disney Springs a few years ago, um, because it's really good. Once I saw them on the screen again, I was like, oh, I have the perfect shirt for tomorrow.
I love how almost directly related this is to politics in the real world right now, where they're donning the looks of
Oh, are you trying to
their
say
leader.
these Ahsoka Troopers are MAGA? Make Ahsoka great again.
That, and then when Balls showed up, I was like, "What is happening?"
Yes, the
Like they're all dressed
Mandalorians.
like them.
Yes, we have the Mandalorians, which are what people call them because they have the horns and the face paint of Darth Maul. Yeah.
I'm gonna need Jordan. I'm gonna need T-shirts like that. I'm sure they exist on Etsy, of like all these all the clones that look like different characters. Like I'm
Oh, that
sure
would be
they're out
funny.
there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up while you
We
talk.
need yeah, Maja. It's make
Yep.
Ahsoka Jedi again is what the clones were really excited for.
Oh man.
Until Order 66. But we are when this thing kicks off, we are so close to the beginning of episode 3. Um I was wrong. We do get Tom Kane's narrator just in the first episode. The rest of the episodes we do not. But very different intro, right? You get the Lucasfilm Limited, like plain font. We get just like the red Clone Wars logo. Like it's a totally different opening from what we're used to, and the animation is just. I think we've said like season 7 has been a step up, but like this, I felt like it was even a step up from those other episodes. Like it just looks
Yeah.
incredible.
They call these title cards, don't they? Is that what they're technically like when they have these? What do they call them when the logo's just there? It's title cards.
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I know there's different places throughout film and throughout television where this comes into effect. Like Harry Potter, I know, gets darker and darker as it goes. That you have more storm. Grey's Anatomy, I know that one because my wife and I watched that one, and as bad things happen, they throw up a different title card that looks red or dark, and it's like, what
Like
is that's
blood.
yeah. So when this one shows up, I'm like, okay, and it's got that real dark, like bad things are happening. So I loved it. I really did.
Yeah, so we start because one way we were able to tell Tom Kane's narration here as he's going through is we see Ayla Secura on Felucia, and that's where she
Yeah.
dies. So you're like, all right, we're kind of cluing in on where everybody is, but then we start getting more stuff dropped. But this episode actually kicks off with Anakin and Obi-Wan taking down um like this bridge, right? And we have like Rex and the clones underneath of it, and they're gonna fly up with their jetpacks. And um, something I think is interesting, Logan, when you compare this to what we may have gotten if it was never canceled, because I think I've read theories or confirmation from the animators. I believe it was confirmation from the animators or somebody that when Anakin goes out there and just walks out in front of all of the droids, It's filmed in a very um, similar way as Luke going out there in Last Jedi, standing off against the First Order. So that movie would not have been around if this was originally coming out when it was supposed to. So the fact that they're able to take those type of things and still work in different references to the newer media, because they had that cancellation and they're able to kind of come back, I think is really interesting to see how, like, oh, Anakin's going out there to face off against all of them just the way Luke was in The Last Jedi. So you're seeing them through the binocular type thing is very similar.
Yeah, you don't usually get that luxury, right? Where you
Yeah.
get a nice break between sixth and the final
Seven,
season.
yeah,
So it's like, oh wow. So and
7 year
there's
break.
right, and I think there's obviously some storyline and storyboard going up for Ahsoka at that point too. They probably had thought, okay, we're going to take this into Ahsoka because that's on the plans, and so they were like, how can we create this to really play into that? And I'm pretty sure because like then Rogue One and all of them, and it really did. Like I think you're
There's
right.
a
I think that
Yeah, there's a
break,
Rogue One reference in
yeah,
here. When That's another one I was going to bring up. It's down the line, but it's when Rex is getting his inhibitor chip out, and she
yeah,
keeps saying, "The Force is with me, and I am one with the Force."
yep.
That is straight from Rogue One with Chirrut, um, and Baze from Rogue One. Um, Logan, there's set up to rebels in here too. So
That's exciting.
there's yeah. Um, we get Yularen, who's calling Obi-Wan and Anakin and says, "Hey, there's a transmission from the Fulcrum channel that you're gonna want to see, and it's Ahsoka and Bo-Katan." And Logan, I'll tell you, this scene is when they revealed that was part of the reveal trailer. I think you might be able to look it up from Celebration of like 2019, 2017, whenever it was that they announced that they were coming back. This scene of her turning around in the hologram to see Anakin and Obi-Wan is from that reveal trailer that like everybody went crazy for at Celebration. So that's pretty cool. I was able to point that out, like, oh, I've seen that a lot. um, so Anakin, I think this is interesting, Logan. I want to get your point of view on it. We don't get a lot of like determinism in Star Wars or like right place, right time in Star Wars, but Anakin kind of alludes to that. I guess we kind of do with Way of the Force, and when people say like the Force is moving in mysterious ways or whatever, right? He says it all makes sense now. This is what he says to Obi-Wan. It all makes sense now. She had to leave the Order to get to this point where she was able to help us find Maul. Like this is all part of like a bigger plan of the Force type of thing. It's kind of what he's alluding to, and Obi-Wan's kind of looking at him a little crazy. But he says if Ahsoka hadn't left the Order, she wouldn't be in the right spot to have found Maul. So, what was your take on that? Anything like we don't get that a lot in Star Wars, I don't think.
Yeah, there's also that where Jedi don't believe in coincidence and that idea of destiny. They believe in destiny, but they don't believe in it in a way that I love the line where he says that she goes, I think she's like, Master, I don't believe in luck. But he goes, well, Obi-Wan doesn't, but I do. And I've taught you that. And kind of thing where it was like, I believe in it. And I think, yes, you can create your own luck, but you can also create this. But yeah, I that is interesting. I was thinking about that when it was happening. I was like, they don't really believe in coincidence, but it just so happens that Ahsoka is there. But then I'm starting to think of it too, is like now she's left the Jedi Order. Now she is a believer in coincidence. Coincidence does happen, whether it was directly meant to or not, we don't know. But it things are happening. You are there at right place, right time at points, like it does feel. So I think that it's an interesting dynamic because Anakin's also obviously leaning way out of the Jedi Order at this point too, and then Ahsoka
He's got
is
one foot out the door,
right.
maybe both at this point.
Maybe yeah, maybe half a hand. Like
Yeah.
it's like but yeah, no, I think that's the same thing though. It's like neither of them are Jedi at this point, it seems. So um that's where I feel like it's a really cool connection that they can make because they both feel, and you get that whole sequence with Ahsoka and and experience the things that Anakin experiences in the live action, where this all makes sense, where they have this bond that they're so very similar in the ways that they do things. And I think that's pretty similar to all Jedi and Masters. So they've got those connections.
Yeah, so we have Ahsoka arriving on the ship. Man, we get Bo-Katan like pulling the Satine card on Obi-Wan. Like, hey, I thought she meant something to you, because Obi-Wan's very hesitant. He says they still has to go to the council to talk about this stuff. He can't just leap in with this. And you know what? It actually kind of makes sense this time. I'll give him benefit of the doubt here, because Darth Maul, this is a trap by Darth Maul, because he wants Obi-Wan and Anakin to arrive to Mandalore. He's going to say that when he's upset when Ahsoka shows up. And we get Anakin and Ahsoka talking. Anakin has a surprise for her, and this is when we see all the clones wearing Ahsoka's markings on their helmets. Anakin gives her her lightsabers, and then we get the alarm going off. And this is pretty much kicking us off into episode 3, Logan. Obi-Wan runs in. He says Grievous is attacking Coruscant. They're worried about the Chancellor, and Ahsoka's upset by this. She's like, oh, you guys are playing politics like usual, right? This is all, like, she's upset about, oh no, that's where the Chancellor needs you, not where the galaxy sort of needs you. Anakin divides the 501st and wants to give Ahsoka a ranking of commander. Obi-Wan shoots that down because she's no longer part of the order. So he says, hey, I'll give Rex the commander ranking, and Ahsoka will be an advisor, right? So they kind of skirt the rules here to get Ahsoka going. Obi-Wan's like, fine, yeah, that's great. And he says to capture Maul because he doesn't stay dead, right? There are we get Olmec from Mandalore calling, and Bo-Katan talks to him. Olmec sends Gar Saxton to prepare. And then we get onto the Mandalorian part, right, where Ahsoka jumps out of the ship and she says, race you to the surface. We kind of see like a little mirror of this at the end of these 4 episodes as well. And like you said, we see the Mandalorians with the Mandos with the spikes. And they think Maul is in the tunnel, so they go down there, and it's a trap meant for Kenobi. And Maul arrives, pretty much saying, like, I was hoping for Kenobi. And that's the first episode of the Final 4. So what's your mindset here as you're about to press the second episode? Like, where do you think it's going when you're seeing this?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like, okay, Ahsoka is the one that has to deal with Maul and his demise, which we'll talk about, I guess. So I'm like, okay, so Ahsoka's going to be the one to kill Maul, which makes sense because Obi-Wan really wouldn't have time to deal with. So I get that. I was like, all right, that's good storytelling. Like that's a good way. It gets Bo-Katan and Ahsoka working together, which makes sense for their show coming up. That it's like, okay, they've worked together, and then you've got Ahsoka with Grogu, and I'm like, okay, this all makes sense. They've connected everything they need to connect, and then I'm going, all right. So again, I think Obi-Wan and Ahsoka not getting immediately like, oh yeah, come back to the order, and then she goes, okay, cool, which makes sense, obviously. But yeah, no, as I was playing the next one, I'm like, okay, Ahsoka's gonna kill Maul. Obi-Wan is now going to, I guess we'll see where his story ends up, but it's like, okay, I know where he was and what he was doing during the time of Order 66, so we've got that. Mm-hmm. So it all made sense, but yeah, I was like, okay, Ahsoka's got to kill Maul.
And she doesn't. Next episode, Phantom Apprentice. She mentions, Master Kenobi had a more pressing matter, which, is another thing to kind of get under Maul's skin a bit here. And he says, so soon the Jedi and the Republic will no longer be the controlling party. And she says, who will, you? And he says, no, Darth Sidious. Get a little bit of a skirmish here between Ahsoka and Maul and, the clones and all that. Maul escapes. And this is when she gets a chance to talk to Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan, this is right after the beginning of episode 3, right? So Obi-Wan drops some interesting knowledge here. He says, to them, Darth Sidious is the one who orchestrated the Clone Wars, made the clones, all that stuff. I first heard of it from Dooku. but we can't learn anything from him. And Ahsoka's like, why? And he says, well, Anakin killed him. And so we know this is post the Grievous ship, right? And what I like to imagine, this is probably not long after they crash the ship on Coruscant, and Anakin goes to Padme and learns that she's pregnant, and Obi-Wan's probably filling in the council with stuff, and then gets the call with Ahsoka. So that's where I'm probably placing this if I had to. Um, it's somewhere around there because Obi-Wan says that he's being sent to Utapau to look for General Grievous. Obi-Wan asks to speak to Ahsoka alone, and he says that Anakin is on a special mission to observe the Chancellor. Maybe it's best to speak to him. But Obi-Wan says the Council is not always right. That's why I'm asking for your help, to Ahsoka. And she says, tell Anakin, and he cuts her off and says, I will. What do you think she wanted to tell Anakin here? Because she never gets a chance.
I think just connection of you know, I know what you're going through. I can feel what you're going through, kind of thing. I don't know. It felt very much like, don't go down that path. I know what you're thinking. I know everything that you're feeling. I can sense it. I know that the path in which you're taking is not going to be good. That there's something wrong. I think I don't know if she quite knows until later, but it feels very much like she knows that he is clouded. Like the dark side has definitely clouded his judgment. I love this scene too, because and well, this whole episode, because it was cool to hear. Kind of weird too. It was weird to hear Ahsoka finding out that Dooku is dead, and like all of them finding out, like, oh, because it's just like dropped, you know, oh, just in other news, you know, other news, Anakin killed Dooku, and then you're going, okay, interesting, but then you know the other side of it. It's like, well, he was baited into killing Dooku, and Palpatine's like, do it if you want to reach that next level, if you want to commit yourself to the dark side, you need to do it, which
Yeah.
is very interesting. But yeah, no, I love this part. I love this episode. I love that Ahsoka is, you can tell the whole time that Ahsoka knows something is up, something is wrong,
Yeah. Yeah.
but nobody else does, which is funny because it's like, is it because she's like Obi-Wan and them, they don't really feel like, they kind of feel it, but they're not like, oh, it's Anakin. Whereas I feel like she feels like, oh crap, it's Anakin. It's very
And she gets that
strange.
confirmed, right?
Yeah.
In this episode.
Yeah.
You know, Maul takes Jesse, the clone that we've gotten to know, and unfortunately, he's gonna never get his inhibitor chip removed, and he's gonna be kind of like the main antagonist after Maul, right? Jesse, um, in the next couple episodes, um, Bo talks to Olmec, and he gets shot by Saxton, by Gar Saxon, before he's able to really reveal everything. But he gets enough out. He says that Maul wanted Kenobi and Skywalker. Bo and Gar will fight. Maul is talking to the Syndicate and talks to them about going into hiding. You know, soon the galaxy will be remade, and in the chaos, we must seize what power we can. Ahsoka, Bo, and Rex walk into the throne room. We see Maul. He has Jesse in the room as well. He gets released back to them. Bo goes after the rest of the Mandalorians, and Maul says the time of the Jedi has passed, and he offers her to join him. And she says, "I will help you, but you have to answer one question. What do you want with Anakin?" Maul says he's the key to everything. He has been groomed as my master's new apprentice. I orchestrated this to bring him here to deprive Sidious of his prized pupil. And then, she wants to fight him, and he says this great line of, I see the Padawan needs one last lesson. Yeah, so how about this? Maul's whole plan here is to try to get one over on Sidious by getting Anakin away from him so he doesn't become Vader. Pretty interesting turn of events, huh?
Yeah, no, this whole Maul story arc takes a complete turn I didn't really expect. But it is interesting. Like to send it's such great writing, and it's such a great use of a character that we all thought at that point was we all thought would have been dead, and now he's back, and now we're now he's kind of this assassin where he just wants to kill and kind of get revenge with the Separatists, but he also doesn't like Kenobi, and he doesn't really like Palpatine, and or Dooku's kind of in the way, and he doesn't really have a place. But then he finds a place with the one person that I think we all probably would have thought watching this live would have been like, no way, like no way does he make a connection with Ahsoka. But Ahsoka is so very good at connecting with people, and I think that's where she has that advantage. Where Anakin doesn't. Anakin, he doesn't connect well with people. He gets very angry with people, and revenge seems to be his
Yes.
game. Whereas Ahsoka's more of like she will defend herself, but she's more of the defensive. Like she's a reactionary, and then she kind of calculates. Okay, let me think about this. She thinks through things, Jordan. Where I feel like she's ultimately the person that could have been such a key instrument and what could have been to save the galaxy, because she's so thoughtful, and she's very profound in the way that she thinks. So it's very
Yeah,
cool. I
I mean, I
liked it.
think if she doesn't leave the Order, I don't think Anakin turns to the dark side.
Right. Right.
Okay, so then we have Maul and Ahsoka fighting. Maul is able to escape a bit and get to a different, level. They're fighting in the rafters and stuff, and Gar Saxon is caught. Rex is able to rally the troops to Ahsoka. She beats Maul, captures him in the air, and he starts screaming like, "We're all gonna die! You don't know what you're doing." I want to say something cool too. This fight scene is really awesome. This fight scene is awesome, and it's actually like motion captured. They actually had like motion capture on this.
Yeah, it was cool. Landon sounded like Grogu at that point. That was pretty funny. It was like watching this. I'm going, and the whole time I'm watching this season, or these 4 episodes especially, like you can tell that like the motion is so human and so much better in advance than. And honestly, it might have helped too because it is so cinematic. It took a completely different turn from 2014 when it paused, or
Yeah, yeah.
and then took off again in 2020. That is such a huge gap. I mean, look at the movies that were animated back in 2014 to what they are now. I mean, even 10 years, it makes it. I mean, nowadays, there's times where animation play where, not to make or poke fun of older generations, but there's older generations, like I've had TV on at some point when my parents have been here, or, video games that go, oh, like what's going on? Who's playing? It's like, no, that's not
Yeah,
real.
it's a
So yeah,
yeah, I
it's
did
not a.
that we're playing like Madden, and my grandmother walks in and she says, "Oh, you got the football game on." We're like, "No, we're playing.
Yeah.
It's a game."
So it is wild, but yeah, no, that was very cool.
Yeah, no, it looks so human. That the lightsabers looked cool because they almost looked like they're bending because the way that the light is
Yeah.
moving and stuff. It just really cool lightsaber fight. Um, Shattered. So we get Bo and Ahsoka talking. Maul is captured, and she gives Maul in like this box. It's like a Mandalorian prison box that like stops force powers and is able to almost like a deprivation tank, I would say, right? Because he can't hear anything outside of it. So it's all it's the last one of that too, the last one, because Mandalorians used to fight Jedi a lot, so they have this box. The council is waiting, and Skywalker is supposed to be there, right? But by the time she gets there, because Rex says, like, oh yeah, I just saw him in the meeting with the council. By the time she gets there, Anakin's out. He's gone somewhere. Mace is saying, like, I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. And, Ki-Adi-Mundi's like, if the Chancellor doesn't give up powers after Grievous's defeat, he must be taken down. Ahsoka confirms she still isn't a Jedi, right? Yoda's kind of like, are you saying this as a Jedi? And she's like, no, a citizen. And they talk about Master Kenobi has engaged Grievous, so we know when this is. And Mace does this, right? He says, I'm sorry, citizen. These matters are for the council to discuss. Yoda hangs back a bit, and he asks if there's a message for Skywalker. And she says, no, Master, thank you. I'll tell him myself. She doesn't get a chance. Rex says, you didn't tell him what Maul said about General Skywalker. And she says, pretty much like, no, we're keeping that like to ourselves right now. Yeah, just really cool the way that they're weaving in these Jedi, because I think originally when you're being told it's gonna overlap and stuff. You think maybe the last time you would see Obi-Wan and Anakin is that moment at the very beginning, but they're able to weave in. There's enough gaps in Revenge of the Sith, which takes place over a few days to weeks, right? Where they're able to still weave that stuff in and have you have these moments. So it's really, really cool. Bo and Ahsoka say goodbye. And I said the tension here in the music and just kind of in the story, because when he's taking on Grievous, we're very close to Order 66. Like, if you're watching this as somebody that's a fan of Star Wars and not like you've only seen the Clone Wars, you may not know what's happening. But as a fan of Star Wars and you're watching Revenge of the Sith, and okay, he's taking on Grievous. It's not long after he kills Grievous that Order 66 happens. And you just know it's there, and you're like, how is this going to work? Because Logan, did you think this would affect Ahsoka? Because as she keeps saying, she is no Jedi.
Yeah, like I thought. I mean, there's so much of it that's like I feel like Ahsoka's just trying to protect a friend, and I feel like Ahsoka really doesn't react much to it because she thinks that she can get to him. If she can just get to Anakin at some point when all this is happening. And I think the nail in the coffin is going to be Order 66, where Ahsoka could get to Anakin and have that conversation. And she seems to be one that he listens to. Like, there's not many other people that Anakin Skywalker listens to, even Obi-Wan. He, for some reason, will listen to Ahsoka. And I think that's because of the connection and bond that they share, where they're both very similar in the way that they've come to be Jedi or not Jedi anymore. But yeah, as a citizen, I've never rooted, or I've never thought I'd go back and say the best death that ever happens in Star Wars is Mace Windu, but I think it is. I know a lot of people like Mace, but gosh, what a jerk. Anyway, yeah, no, I feel like she would be affected by this, but also she can't really be, because she knows she has to take care of a couple things.
Well, I also meant, like, what do you think when it comes to the fact that she's like, do you think did you think the clones would shoot at her because she
Oh,
is
oh, oh.
like not a Jedi anymore? Like, did you think
Right.
that would have an effect?
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean. Yeah, that is weird. Like, I guess I didn't really think about that. Like, why shoot at her? Maybe because they feel like she's connected enough. She has a lightsaber. Like, she could go back to, if there was a Jedi to survive. Like, why not eliminate everybody that's had a past with the Jedi? So maybe that's what that feeling was you have a lightsaber, you wield a lightsaber, you could be a problem in the future.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of how it was. It's like, Rex gets um that order, right? And it immediately, he says, like, we have to take down uh, all Jedi like leadership and stuff. Now, when he gets the chip removed, they use this as part of the plan, right? And he's going through like, hey, she's actually not a Jedi anymore, so I only captured her. We didn't have to kill her. And the other clones that are still kind of brainwashed are like, no, we should probably kill her. You told us to kill her. This is not, like, you're being a little confusing right now, Rex. Are you okay? And, it creates this whole standoff between Rex and Jesse and the rest of the clones. But, Order 66 happens. There's this, we get this nice exchange right before that where Rex and Ahsoka are talking about the war. And, she mentions, like, how she's been a soldier her whole life since she was a Padawan. And Rex is like, hey, clones kind of feel the same way. Like, there's some of us that wish there was never a war, but it's also the only reason we're alive, right? Is because of this war. And then they get interrupted. It says, like, the latest briefing has come in, and this would have been real awkward. Rex asks if Ahsoka wants to go to the briefing. She says no. I'm sure it's more good news. I wrote in my notes it's not. This is when he gets to Order 66. I wonder how that would have went if she was in the room.
Yeah. I wonder if it would have been like that Zoom call that it would have been like, we're gonna have to take this offline.
Yeah. We'll connect after the Zoom.
Right.
So we get Execute Order 66. We actually hear the scene from Revenge of the Sith where Anakin's killing Mace, and we hear Palpatine give like Order 66. But it's like she's feeling it in the Force, and so is Maul at this
Hmm.
time. And Ahsoka runs to Rex, who is visibly shaking, and he says, "No, I'll do it." Because they ask if like somebody else, somebody else is like, "Should we do it?" And he fights enough to say stay back and says find him Fives, right? So at this point he realizes what Fives was saying in season 6 in that first arc was correct, and that this is part of the inhibitor chip, and he's giving Ahsoka a little clue: find Fives. So she looks up the notes and she's able to find the records of him and sees about the inhibitor chip. So this kind of puts in motion her plan to get the inhibitor chip out of Rex. And we get this great build up to it at the end of this episode, right? Where, well, first Rex is like, go to the detention level and execute Maul. So he sends these poor clones to go execute Maul. It's not going to work out very well for them. Ahsoka's able to stop the execution. She tells him, "Don't make me regret this." He asks for a fighting chance, and she's like, "Look, I'm not here to team up. I'm not rooting for you. I just need a diversion. All right? Like, I just need you to cause some chaos so that way I can get out of here and do this." Ahsoka talks to the droids. We get this great scene of like Maul wrecking the clones with the Force, right? He's just like pulling panels off of the door, like the walls, and like chucking them at them, blocking blaster fire like that. He even decapitates a few clones with it. Like, he's just going crazy in here. And then we get the droids stop Rex, lock him in, stun him, and we get her taking the inhibitor chip out. The rest of the clones are trying to get in. Rex wakes up and shoots the clones. His chip is removed. And she asks, "How widespread is this?" And he says, "It's all of us, the whole Grand Army of the Republic." And that's how this episode ends. And at this point, we only have one episode left. So I'm sure you were did you watch all 4 in a row, or was it like some yesterday, some today?
No, I watched all 4 in a row because it's like, you know what? I can wake up early enough and watch these all 4 straight through because I'd probably like it better that way because
Yeah,
otherwise I
yeah.
have to wait and I'd forget a couple things. So I've got a horrible memory sometimes. But it's always TV shows too. Like I can literally watch something and go, "What the hell did I just watch?" And then like I literally have to go, like when I go see movies, Jordan, like I have to reread like summary after sometimes because I'm like, "What did I just watch?" Because I'm like, I enjoyed that, but I'm like, I need to go through. And it's weird. Like, I don't know why it's that way, but yeah, no, I was after this episode. I'm like, oh crap! Like, Maul's going to be used in a way that, like, this is why I think people really like Maul. Like, there's this, like, I don't know. There's almost like this will to want to also help sometimes, and it's very strange. Like it, I think it's because it's at the expense of the emperor or as Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's like it I don't know, it feels like there is some weird good things that Maul believes in. Like it's strange. Very strange. Not Doctor Strange, but strange.
The clones are trying to get through the doors. Rex sets to stun because Ahsoka's like, "We don't want to kill anybody here." Um, Ahsoka pushes the door after they kind of cut through it, and she just takes out a few of the clones. Rex comes out, stuns them. Um, so Maul goes to the hyperdrive and pulls it out of hyperspace by destroying
Mhm.
it. And this ship is like falling apart at this point. They have to find a shuttle, but all the clones are there. Um, she mentions setting it to stun again, and Rex is like, "Dude, like, they're gonna try to kill us." And she says, "You're a good soldier, Rex. So is every one of those men, right?" And the plan is to have Rex act like he's captured Ahsoka. She is no Jedi. Jesse is like, that's BS. I'm gonna arrest you now, Rex. And we get the droids who've been helping out drop the floor on the clones, right? And the floor just kind of falls out from under them. So a few of them get up. I'm not sure if they die from it, but they're knocked out for a bit. Um, And Maul uses this time to get to the last shuttle, so kind of freeing him kind of screwed her over a little bit. And Ahsoka uses the Force to stop it, but you know, more of the clones are coming. The droid R7 gets killed, so Ahsoka lets Maul go. And Ahsoka cuts through the floor to escape, and there's more clones. They shoot up the rest of the droids. I felt very bad for the droids. They do find a ship in the maintenance bay, and at this point, the large ship, um, would be equivalent of a star destroyer, is entered the atmosphere. Rex is in the ship, and Ahsoka is in the air of this, little ship. And we kind of get this callback. This is what I'm talking about with when it's like race to the, I'll race you down. We see like Ahsoka doing some of the same stuff as she's going through the debris and she's trying to get onto this ship. Eventually, she does get in. She and Rex land the ship, and we see the bigger ship has crashed into the planet. Rex and Ahsoka bury the dead. We see helmets on stakes, confirmation that Jesse is dead with his helmet hanging, and she leaves her sabers there. But we do get a flash forward. It's not over here. An Imperial shuttle lands on the planet. It's now winter. Stormtroopers are surveying the scene. Vader is there. He walks to the ship, sees the helmets, finds the saber, activates it for a bit. And we see the owl in the sky. This owl that has always been attributed to Ahsoka since the Mortis arc with the father, the son, and the daughter in the sky. And I think Anakin is realizing at that point that she is still alive. I think at this point he has no doubt that Ahsoka is still alive.
They kind of have that they have that connection too that where I think Rey has that same kind of thing where when she picks up the lightsaber, she has this connection too. So you wonder if Vader also feels that too, where he's like, this lightsaber belongs to someone that's still alive, kind of thing. And then the bird, I think, is very symbolic. But it was so interesting to me, like that whole ending to it, where Rex is having that discussion with Ahsoka that we are all alive because of it, and we're all we want to be alive, but like we got to destroy them because they're going to destroy us. And then Ahsoka's like, I'm not going to be the one that destroys these clones, so we're going to let that spaceship hurtling towards Earth, or sorry, not Earth, the planet, destroy them. So, but it's such a cool dynamic. And then like with the stakes with the heads on them, it reminds me so much of like After the Empire and just kind of the shows that
Mando did
follow.
it, right? And
Yeah.
I think Rogue One may have
Yep.
done it. Yeah.
Yep. It's like all nods to, like, I don't know. It feels very like what the shows we're getting right now. Like there's always that with the stake in the ground and the clones' heads on sticks or stakes, and even Mandalorian helmets and different things like that, where it was like it's a tribute to the people that have fallen during these great wars. And but that was such a cool scene. And Jordan, we get the most cinematic, I think, like scene ever when Vader does, like, you can tell Vader was walking like Anakin. So like obviously he's Anakin, but he has that walk, he has that strut. My favorite part is when he's walking away, and in the clone's helmet,
Reflection.
you can see Vader walking. And then there's also this cool panning of the helmets on the stake,
Yeah.
and it kind of pauses on
Jesse's.
on Jesse's. So
Yeah.
it's like, man, it was like the snow following, and Vader walking out. And then when Vader activates the blue saber, it's so like, whoa, like, because you always see him with the red, but he's got that blue, and it still feels like this, like, she's alive. I always wondered too, like, what at that moment is he feeling? Like, you know what, I'm happy she's alive, but I also know that's a problem. Like, I always feel like there's that part with Vader. Like he has that same kind of feel with Luke. Like almost kind of like weirdly happy, but also like, damn, like they're going to be a problem in my plan, my ultimate rise. Because if they're not in the way, then I'm fine. I can be fine. But it seems like he always has these moments of reflection, like, damn, they could get in the way.
Yeah. It's really well done here, this final scene, because there's no words, right? It's just Vader reflecting. And I think I think he is reflecting when he activates that saber. You know, it's like, this is what I'd given to her. Like, I gave these to her as a gift right before the last time I saw her is when I
Hmm.
gave these to her. And, you know, if he thinks that she's dead, it's him mourning her. If he thinks she's alive, it's this like you said, kind of like oh crap, she might be. It might be a little one of those like, stay out of my way and I'll stay out of your way type of thing. Like,
Yeah.
I think she's alive, but I'm not going to actively seek her
Hmm.
to kill her. I'm gonna, if she stays out of our way and goes unnoticed, then she goes unnoticed, right? Type of thing. I think he'd be fine with that. But um, I think this was one of the moments where you get Vader not as Vader. This is Anakin.
Hmm.
I think here activating that saber.
Which is cool because like the first it would have been episode 4 that it's like um, A New Hope would have been, you don't really get him reflective, like you get him more just a machine, like a killing machine. And with this, it's like that before where he's making that transition into becoming something evil. It's strange. It's cool though. Like I love that. I love that they can give him a very human side, an element that he does feel bad for things that have happened, but also kind of like you said, stay out of my way, or we will come after you.
So there's this when the Clone Wars was canceled, they did make some books based off of other arcs, and there was an Ahsoka book that actually covered part of this. Just a little different though. In the Ahsoka novel, this is from Wikipedia here. A clone is buried in Rex's armor, and a fake grave marker is made with an inscription claiming that Ahsoka and Rex killed each other. In this episode, however, Rex leaves with his armor. No inscribed grave markers are made. Additionally, the novel states that Ahsoka ignites her sabers one last time before leaving both of them and that they are green. This episode shows Ahsoka only hesitating to drop one of her sabers. And the novel also indicates the gravesite is on Mandalore, when in the episode it's on an unidentified moon. And finally, the novel had Ahsoka alone when she abandoned her weapons while Rex had already left. In the episode, he's still there. So just little things like that. Some people that like the book are very upset with what Dave Filoni did. My opinion, this is Dave's character, and he came up with her first, and he's able to overwrite that stuff, in my opinion. I like the way it played out more in the show than the book. Like, who would leave the inscription like Rex and Ahsoka killed each other? Like, that's what I don't know. Like, who would have done that? Just like a random clone?
Yeah.
You know, I like it better if like she leaves a
Yeah.
saber and Darth Vader's like, oh, she's supposed to be dead. Like, I think that makes more sense.
So I have a question, and maybe this is a dumb question because we found out what happens to him, but I don't feel like we have. What happened to Maul? Is he just expected to be out there?
Well, that'll come back up again. He is
Okay.
not done in the Star
Okay.
Wars animated universe. All
Okay.
right.
I didn't. I figured, but I was like, so he just leaves? Like, what the heck? Like, what?
So after this point as well, he will show up in Solo
Yeah.
as part of the Black Sun crime syndicate that he's been running. So he does escape all of this, but then also he will appear in Rebels. So when we get to Rebels, we will get the rest of Darth Maul's arc.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know because it's like,
Yeah.
strange. Very strange.
And in the way that this was actually made, right? Rebels came out before this seventh season. So it's kind of
Right.
like interesting the way that works out. So in this part, like for most viewers, this is like another puzzle piece of how he gets to Rebels. For you, this was like he could die here, right? But
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so that's the Clone Wars. We do have some Tales of the Jedi that we'll be watching. So these are very short episodes. They're like between, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes each. There's only 6 of them. 3 for Dooku, 3 for Ahsoka. Originally, the plan was to do like talk Dooku's and then the next week talk Ahsoka's, but they're very short. So I'm thinking we're just going to do it in one episode, and I can't promise you it's next week on the release here, but it'll be coming up. If Logan and I can record it before I drop this episode, then it'll be out like the following week. If not, it'll be a couple weeks later as we start preparing for the Bad Batch. So we'll take a little breathe. This is what I'm going to do. We're going to say these will be like our special in between the series. So we have Clone Wars, Tales of the Jedi. Then we'll do Bad Batch. Then we'll do Tales of the Empire. And then we'll go into Rebels. So I think that is probably the best way to do that. Especially Tales of the Empire will introduce some characters for Rebels. So that'll, I think, make that all work very, very well. And look, this was the longest one. None of these other seasons are going to take us, none of these other shows are going to take us 42 weeks. But
I was ready for another 42 weeks.
Yeah, were you? I'm outlining right now. Like, I got to go and outline how I'm breaking up the Bad Batch. Like, if we just did 4 episodes each week, that would only take 16 weeks. But I want to make sure there's actually, like, story reasons to break them up like we did.
Yeah.
So. All right. So, Logan, give us your final thoughts on the Clone Wars as a whole. You reached out to me in like November or September of last year and said, I finally want to watch these and we can record it for the podcast. And I was like, that sounds great. I went and listed how many weeks it would take, sent it to you to make sure you still want to actually do it. You've heard good things about the show. Where do you end up? You said it's the best animated show you've ever watched, but like, where is, I don't know how many of those you've watched, if any animated shows. So where, like, how good was this show? Are you glad you have watched it? Like, what's your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate you, so that's a good good starting. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, I think it really did live up to all the expectations that I had and all the hype that was surrounding it or still surrounds it. There's such a lore to this one, and I know a lot of people love Rebels too. So yeah, I think everything that I've ever heard about Clone Wars, it lived up to it. It connects so many storylines now. If you haven't watched it and you've been hesitant, and you were like me, more of the casual Star Wars, where you've now watched Ahsoka because it's new, it was fresh, and you're kind of confused. This explains so much of what Ahsoka is, and I can't wait to go back and watch Ahsoka because now I feel, and as we get further into these different stories, I think going back and watching some of them that they connect to would make even more sense for me, because I feel like it would be a really good connection back to, okay, here's where they've kind of connected it from these different animated series. So I'm really excited because I feel like there's even more to come, and I feel like there's going to be more connection with getting another season of Ahsoka and getting her further into her story, or even Mando or Grogu, or still on this timeline where you can still have these connections, and now I'll understand some of them better when they are alluded to in some of these shows. So overall, 10 out of 10, would recommend. Definitely go watch it. I know I was hesitant because it was animated, and I'm like, okay, was this made for children? Absolutely not. It was made for everybody that is or considers themselves a Star Wars fan. So I'm glad that you've talked it up some, and in passing, I've heard a lot about it, because I think that this was easily worth the 40 some odd weeks that we've been trying to cover this. So it's been a great ride. Can't wait to do more of it.
Yeah, I would say maybe hold off on that Ahsoka rewatch until Rebels, because
what
I would say is Rebels, Ahsoka's pretty much Rebels season 5. So when we get done Rebels, maybe we do a Ahsoka rewatch here on the pod. And
let's just keep going the timeline. Let's just keep going.
Yeah. All right, well, that'll wrap us up here on Chronological Clone Wars. Make sure you follow us at podawakens on all of our social media, podawakens@gmail.com if you want to send any long-form feedback. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It helps other people find the show. And so that wraps up Chronological Clone Wars. We'll be back for Tales of the Jedi very, very soon.